The world is changing. What we know today is not what we will know tomorrow. This is Outlook by Oros East Africa, where we sort of try to project what is going to change in most of the industries in our economy. My name is Otieto Guguyu. I'm your host, and today I'm joined with a very interesting guest called. He'll introduce himself. He was here last year when we were doing Project Unemployment, but this is an all new project altogether. It's called Outlook. So let me first introduce himself.
So my name is Dominic Omondi. I'm a business reporter with the Nation Media Group. I've been doing business reporting. I don't like calling it business reporting. I like calling myself an economic reporter. So I've been doing economic reporting for the last 11 or so years. Yeah.
Economic reporting does a lot of projections. And here I want to bring the industry, the media industry into focus here. There was a time when AI was like being projected into our screens and being sold as the next frontier of everything. We had journalists sort of say that I'm reading this news and this story has been written by an AI. Yeah. So it's literally somebody telling you, this is going to replace me. Yes. This is the employee who is going to replace me when my employer decides to cut costs. And so this industry is about to undergo a disruption that of course all other industries are going to go undergo a disruption. So in your industry, how do you see this AI revolutionizing your work?
Okay. Well, AI is here. Artificial intelligence is here. And as they say, it's a cliche, of course, but the only thing that is constant is change. And in a market economy, what you would call capitalism, one of the hallmarks of capitalism is creative destruction. And creative destruction basically means you get rid of that, and that's how things change. You get rid of things that they are replaced by things that are more superior and all that. And if you try to fight that, you find yourself losing relevance. And I know that there are a lot of us, especially in the media industry, that are disillusioned because of what is happening. Someone is just eating our lunch, just like that. And yes, there was a time when at first it looked like it was so distant. The fact that news could be read by a machine, and then Bloomberg started doing news.
And it was a long time ago.
Yes, they started doing
5-10 years ago. Bloomberg was doing
news
reports,
using AI, and people really did not appreciate what was coming, or they didn't see it as something that would at some point be close home. And I think that is how mainstream media generally has been confronting this issue, generally the disruption by the internet. For a very long time, it was like, it's not broken, why fix it? We are still getting our money from advertisers and all that. So we paid lip service to some of these things. We said them, but we really didn't mean. But it's here and it's changing, and where we're going. I think that the media, I'm not saying that journalism as a profession is going to die, but it's going to be fundamentally different. I also wouldn't like to believe that mainstream media, as we talk about it, is going to die. It will have its place in the new journalism, the journalism of the future, but it will be very different from what we've been seeing in the last century or so, ever since we started doing the printing press was invented, ever since we started doing broadcast TVs and all that. But it's going to be very different going forward in terms of the mode of production, in terms of how the consumption of the news is going to happen, in terms of the main media actors. I don't think we are going to have intermediaries anymore. The era of the trust that you with the gatekeepers is gone, and that will move. That is my thinking. Will move into other sectors as well. So,
which a question which you're very right. I see the media sometimes as a precursor of what is going to happen in other sectors, especially in Kenya. What the current disruption that is happening there will probably translate to most of the other sectors,
yes,
eventually, or in a very dramatic way. And you're saying here that the role of the gatekeepers is gone,
yes,
which I think is the role of the media. As in,
yes.
Are you saying literally? So fundamentally, if the role, as you're saying, is this is what I usually ask myself is that something is, did the last messenger, there's an office messenger. There used to be a role called office messenger.
Yes.
Did the last office messenger know that his role was being retired when the email came?
He probably didn't.
He probably did. So at some point, he was still delivering his mail with his little cacat. He just didn't understand that the role was fundamentally just disappearing.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about the role of gatekeeping
yes.
being like disappearing, which is the function of the media,
mm-hmm.
how does the media survive beyond that?
If you look at in the current scenario and the current configuration of both the social and mainstream media, the way things have been happening, you realize that even the mainstream media has been trying to make inroads into the other world of social media. So having a major presence in social media, X, TikTok, and all that. But for some reason, we haven't been able to hack it the way some of the new players, the influencers and bloggers and all that have done it. And so that already tells you that people do not want to interact with gatekeepers. People want to interact with the real people. So I do not want to wait for you.
But don't you think the gatekeepers has just changed? It's just that maybe now you're playing in somebody else's game. You used to be the game master, but now you've been introduced in somebody else's game. Now this is the game of the algorithm. So there are gatekeepers, just not you.
Yeah.
So now you have joined the Raya, paying lip service to somebody who's mightier than you. Now the social media, the techno, whatever giant.
Yeah. So before we even get to the point where we are even replacing the real people themselves, and I think then we are going to have a conversation on if ever we have journalism continuing into the future, what kind of shape will it take? Because as I said, my thinking is that we will still need journalism, and journalism will still be there. Not just the kind of journalism that we do. AI can do a lot of things from the reports. AI can do a lot of news. AI can, but the kind of journalism that needs you to put your boots on the ground, interact with nature, interact with people directly, give us the emotions of those people, how they felt at that moment, and all that. I think that more and more that will be needed of us, and then from that, then try to make sense of this is the emotions that I'm seeing in terms of these people have been affected by one or two issues, and this is what they feel like. So increasingly, journalists will be required to bring that out, to go out there, interact with nature and interact with people, and then bring those stories. In the process, of course, then they can use AI to tell their stories in one way or the other at some point. But the point is the primary source of the news will be from a journalist who can go out there and and interact with people and tell the stories of people from the ground. But before we even go there, currently what we are seeing, we are getting, as you put it, a precursor of what is likely to happen going forward, even before AI comes and disrupts everything. And that is that people want to interact. People want to listen to people. People want to listen to people directly telling their stories. We used to tell stories on behalf of other people. Now people don't want to listen to you telling them stories of other people. They just want to listen to stories of people, them telling their stories directly. This is what happened to me when the fire broke out and all that. And they want to listen to that story from the beginning to the end, not for you to now bring in your and all that. So the journalist, the journalist that is going to be successful is the one that is going to be able to tell the story from his own perspective, because people want to listen to people. They don't want to listen to KBC. They don't want to listen to Nation. They don't want to listen
the gatekeepers
to...
that we can no longer gatekeep.
Yes.
Which brings me to the second part of this interview, because I remember when for a long time that we were in the newsroom, we always, for every season of whenever a new managing editor or whenever a new editor was coming into the fray, for every time a new manager was coming into the fray, we always got the idea that we would set up an investigative desk.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever a new administration was coming in, they would have this idea that we would set up this investigation desk that will be going to do the kind of stories you're talking about.
Yes.
The stories that are invested in the ground, the stories that will bring us will reduce that just reporting he said, she said, but will report people in the stories and bring us context. But something always happens along there, because newsrooms, you still end up not producing such stories. But you recently was around this area doing a story on sugar, and which I'm thinking should be like you said, the stories of the future. So what convinced the old dinosaur to finally put
I think
on the ground?
they're also realizing that if they are to remain relevant, that is the way to go. And the way to go is, people just want stories that help them to make sense of the world. So, we know stories of the plight of the sugarcane farmers. We know about the mills and how they are old and they're inefficient. We know that the politics and the bailing out. We know about the COMESA politics and how the safeguards have been there. So, those issues have been there with us for the last 10 years. For me, as someone who, knows something about sugar, but has not interacted with the entire value chain of sugar, right from planting to milling to processing, planting cane, milling it, up to a point where you are processing it. I thought that is one gap that our reporting for a very long time has not been able to. And so I wanted to witness the entire value chain of sugarcane, and then go back and start asking myself then what is happening to that value chain that is bringing all these problems. Where is the problem? Is it at the farm level? And if it's at the farm level, what is happening at the farm level? Is it at the factory level? And if it's at the factory level, what is happening at the factory level? Is it at the market level? And if it's at the market level, what really is happening in the market.
What
that
did
is
you
bringing all these
what did you
products.
find out? What did you learn from the whole
Well,
experience?
the learning curve is really interesting.
Uh-huh.
First of all, it's just to define sugarcane. Because a lot of people take it for granted that, well, sugarcane is what is used to produce sugar. But it's not just that. It has, what is important is the sweet part, which is the sucrose. And so a farmer's work is simply to produce as much sucrose as they can. That means that for the 22 or so months that you're doing your farming, your work is to ensure that when
years.
that cane goes up, that stick goes up for 2 years, it has as much sucrose as possible. So it needs a lot of labor, preparing the land, fertilizing. There's a certain distance that you need to keep. You need to fertilize. You apply fertilizer during growing, and then top dressing when it's just flowering, and all that, and then cutting, and then there's an art in how you will cut that sugar, because you remember when we used to eat the sugar cane, the sweetest part was
the
bottom.
The roots.
Then there's a way in which you need to stack those sugar, and the sugar needs to move very fast from the farm to the factory. Otherwise, the sucrose will reduce.
They will dry.
Yes, and then those guys will not get anything there. But that is at that level, at the farm level. Now, remember, the guy who is going to extract sucrose is the miller. Now, you, the farmer, what if there's no enough sucrose? You don't care. It's not your business. You'll say, this is my cane. You wait, and then give me my money.
They're not paid according to grades or something.
Those guys will, when the sugar cane comes in, they will try to do a sample test and see the amount of sucrose in the contents, but they will not test the entire. You realize that, because it's very difficult. These guys brought in a whole truck. You can't test every. So you'll probably just test one and say, okay, this looks good or something like that. But you've not tested it all. Because of that, it behooves now the factory to be in charge of the entire
value chain.
Ideally, yes. He should be in charge of the entire value chain. Because the farmer will lie to you that I've grown this for 22 months and it's just only 5 months.
Yeah.
So how they did it, that is when you hear of the issue of the cane development. That factories, when they set up, they need to do cane development.
Their own in nucleus.
Cane development. So that you can do cane development, you'll do it either on the nucleus farm or you contract farmers, the outgrowers. Then when you contract the outgrowers, you be in charge of the entire value chain, so that at the moment they start growing, you know when they started growing, you know the fertilizer they applied, you know everything. And so when they come to you and say, now I want to harvest and bring it, you can tell this is now mature. So that's why every factory is supposed to have it. But then the way these mills are made, the capacity for most of them, the lowest, I think, is like 1,250 tons of cane per day. They can crush that. For that, you need like 29,000 acres of land. No company has a nucleus with 29,000
acres. And where are people? Where do people live? Yeah.
Yeah. So you in as much as a lot of factories have the nucleus farm, you have to have a lot of outgrowers. And
is very land intensive.
Yes. And I mean, if you look at Mumias, for example, I think they have 8,000 nuclear estate. I think it's one of the biggest. The biggest was Miwani, had like 10,000, but it's not in operation. So Mumias had the biggest nucleus. Muhoroni has 5. I think Zoia has 6. Sony has 2,500, like that. And then you add in the outgrowers. You have, but most factories will start without nuclear, or even contracting farmers for cane development. So that's where cane poaching comes in, because you remember I told you you need at least 29,000 acres of land for that mill to operate in high capacity, in the optimum way. So that's where you bring in the issue of cane poaching, which has been a very big thing. But anyway, I'm going ahead of myself. So you finished with the farming section. So you get to the factory.
Milling.
Yeah. The milling, I realized it's the rigor that is needed to extract sucrose from cane is such that you do not need any interference from incompetence, the political noise, and all that thing. You need things to work clinically.
Which they can't.
Which,
unfortunately,
we haven't been able to do. And if you look at that thing, you can just see why it's been really hard for us to
develop,
to do it. Because you see, labor intensive on one hand, capital heavy, labor intensive at the farm level, capital heavy at the factory level. So with
and requires little or no inefficiency.
Yes. It leaves you with very little room
for inefficiency. Yes.
Now the biggest machinery for inefficiency is government.
Yes.
Yeah. Naturally, government are there to help people. Yeah. Governments are there to tolerate inefficiency.
Exactly. Which brings me to a certain point that I have, which is just a personal opinion. Given that we know that, because we have tried it, it's from experience. The last since independence, the government came to our people and told them this cash crop is going to bring us prosperity. For 60 or so years, this cash crop has not brought us prosperity. This cash crop, we grow it for 2 years. It does not. It has only brought us debts, and because of you, as you have explained, it's because we are not doing it well.
Yes.
And we know, given the circumstances, we're not going to do it well. Now the government is coming to tell us that since it has not been able to do it well, it wants to give it to some individuals, which it has identified, which for some in some back room somewhere it has negotiated with some individual, which it believes this government that is unable to give us polio vaccines has had a matrix and had identified the most efficient, allocated capital to the most efficient person. Of course, we know that is not true also. So that we give the land to these individuals to control for a few 10 20, 30 years. My point is simple. If the government is unable to do with this land what it was unable to do, and if our population is about to double by by 2050 or something, let the land return to us so that we can farm food.
Okay. I mean, that's fair enough.
But
land,
first, before you give me that your response,
yeah.
you explored the privatization process. What do you think about it? And then you can give me your rejoinder
about what you think about
Yes.
what needs to be done with the land.
First, the facts about the facts about the privatization process that you discovered in your work.
I'll be fair enough. I'll be honest. I don't like it. It's been opaque, and clearly we haven't necessarily gone for the best private investors to revive some of the factories, the state-owned factories. And so it's a continuation of the crony capitalism, as we say. So who knows who gets to sit at the high table, then they divide the spoils, and those are the people that will create the most wealth, but not the country, unfortunately. So, well, it's just the cronies enriching themselves, becoming richer and richer at the expense of many. And I mean, going back, every time we've attempted to do privatization, it's been the same old story. The script has not changed. It's the same when we did the Africanization immediately after independence. It's the same when in 1990s when we did the structural adjustment.
SAP1. And these are SAP2s after IMF came here. This is the second round of SAPs.
Yeah. And I think that what we need to ask ourselves is, out of all those privatization processes that we've undertaken, where can we place a hand and say, well, here is a privatization process that really did it? Well, there are a few names here and there.
I used to write papers, and KK used to be mentioned a lot. It was the most primary.
And Mumias at some point was also mentioned. Safaricom, of course.
We have gone round.
Safaricom.
And we're about to go around with Safaricom.
Safaricom was one of those exemplary examples that we continue giving ourselves. Privatization is not bad. We've just gone about it the wrong way, totally. And I think the kind of capitalism that we gave ourselves, which is not very different from the kind of capitalism that the Russians gave themselves after the collapse of the Nini, where the oligarchs, the cronies, are the ones who run the show. And a few people get to benefit, but it's not benefiting a lot of people. Because you do not place, it's not a competitive one. You get. Mm-hmm. Simply put, the kind of capitalism that we practice is not the kind of capitalism that values competition. The best really are the ones who come on top.
A caveat here, you're the believer in capitalism here. I always know that for me, I don't think that is very even fundamentally problematic. Capitalism in itself is monopoly.
Well,
at the end of it,
I think
it's concentration of power, it's monopoly, but that will have a conversation.
Yeah, that's a long conversation. But anyway, we took up a market, economy, and that is what we chose as a country. But I do not think that the kind of market economy that we've been practicing,
we pretend maybe that we have a market
the right
economy.
One. So
it's the kind of preacher Christianity, like we preach what.
So yes, so I do not believe that some of the state-owned sugar companies will will do any better in the hands of these private investors that have taken them. That because, as I've told you, the process was opaque. It just continues what we started since we got independence. The crony capitalism is what is going to continue. The other bit of your question was on whether we should just give the land back to
The local
community so that they can do something different. And again, my opinion is, if you've looked at all the alternatives and you've realized that there is another economic activity, I'm very careful not to say another crop. I mean, you can do anything. You can decide even to do fishing. You can decide that land is better used for real estate. You can decide, because land is a factor of production, so it can do a lot of things. If you think that this land has another purpose that can do better, so be it. But so far, as things stand, in Western Province and Western and Nyanza Province, they needed something that will give them money. They didn't have money. Yeah. Whereas in Central Rift Valley, they had coffee, they had tea, dairy, and all that. That gave them money. And I'm a firm believer that poverty is simply a lack of money. If you do not have money, there's so much you can do to alleviate your situation in life, your hard situation in life. There's so much. I mean, if you were to shift from a cash crop to purely food crop, there's a problem there. Because then, where do you get the money to move around? Where do you get the money?
Eat fast. You eat fast.
So
this is a conversation that can go on forever.
My thinking when in the course of doing this project, what was coming out strongly and what also hasn't been done very well is the fact that our farmers have not been very good at intercropping. Even the fact that you grow sugar throughout, in India, they leave the land fallow for quite some time and then place sugar, because sugarcane makes the land to be more acidic.
As we conclude, this conversation can go on forever. As we conclude, we started by talking about what journalists need to do. And one thing that you mentioned, when we're doing all these stories, we have never heard the voice of the farmer. Why?
Yes. We've never heard the voice of the farmer. That's true. And that, I think, is part of what is ailing journalism. I remember one of my editors, managing editor, I once went to him and suggested to him to, because he kept nagging us with giving him some exclusive stories here and this and there. So I told him, okay, if that is what you want, then we need to get very serious with our bits. We need to give people their bits so that they can specialize and cultivate sources and tell stories in a way that is, because they are the ones who will be the first point of contact with their sources. So he said it as a joke, but I think it's a serious problem. It's a flaw in the system, inadvertently, and you have to take it. He said, no, that one will create cartels. And so I was really disappointed that we could not get farmers. And I noticed
was
that.
it deliberate? Was it, yeah?
I think it was deliberate because I noticed that because the sources that we journalists have, and given the hierarchy of the prominence and all that, are the sugar millers and all that. The sugar millers have their own interest that is diametrically opposed to those of farmers. But in your day-to-day reporting as a journalist, very few times do you go to talk to a farmer. You're always talking to a miller, and the miller will give you his story. So, and he will never give you access to the farmers that they interact with, that they clash with, that they have underpaid. They have, and so yes, the journalism of the future will be the journalism of speaking to the farmer more than speaking to those in position of influence and power, but speaking to those who matter the most, who is you and I, that person in the street and all that, because that voice has been lost. Journalism, over time, we've gotten very comfortable with speaking to the high and mighty, the seers, and we forget the very person that is the basic
The SI unit of storytelling.
the SI unit of storytelling, who is the farmer, the mechanic, that person that does the real work.
So yeah, so we leave this story by there's an African story that says that until the lion learns how to tell its tale, the story of the hunter will always dominate. Are we ready for the story of the farmers? Are we ready for the journalism that tells the stories from that removes, dismantles the gatekeepers and tells us the stories from the source, from the heart of the story? This is Oros East Africa Outlook Podcast. I'm your host, Otiato Guguyu.
And I'm Dominic Omondi.
Thank you for staying with us.